While some will say it's a little too early to be talking about this offseason while we're in the final stretches of the year, but for the Chicago Bulls and how this season is transpiring and leading to yet another play-in appearance and fighting just to get to 500, this offseason is going to be all the more critical with some tough decisions they're going to need to make as it relates to the future of Zach Lavine, retaining Patrick Williams, who will be a restricted free agent. Do they want to keep Andre Drummond around, who will be an unrestricted free agent? Do they want to keep Vucevic around, who will still be under contract, but perhaps they could look to move in a trade? But none of these are more important than what they need to do in deciding upon their best player, their veteran leader in DeMar DeRozan, who is also set to become an unrestricted free agent this summer and is eligible to sign up to a 3-year, $130 million extension with the Bulls. It's a lot. The question is he worth it? Is he worth that much at this stage in his career? And even if you feel that he is he going to get that amount anyway? Let's talk about it in this video. So what's going on, everyone? You're listening to Bulls Central here. Hope you're all doing well. Real quick, guys, for those who haven't already, be sure to check out the promotion Underdog Fantasy is offering viewers of this channel. They're matching deposits of first-time depositors up to $100. Free money. You might as well take it. As I've said before, I love this platform. It makes the games all the more fun and interesting to watch with some stakes on the side and predicting player stats and props where you can pick higher or lower on a given player stat in a game and you can win 20 times your money on a single pick'em. Lately, my picks have not been working out too well, but it's a good thing I'm putting in a very little amount of money. That's the other benefit, where you can wager as little as $1. Again, it is for entertainment, not for investment purposes, but check it out. A link to the site and the promo code is in the description, as well as the pinned comment. Now, I don't think any Bulls fan will deny the level of impact DeMar DeRozan has brought to this team. Yes, we've been critical of him at times because he slows down the offense, operates heavily in isolation, and takes low percentage shots from the mid-range. At times, he can have tunnel vision, especially in late-game situations, and yes, we can always say, well, look, as good as DeMar has been for this team, the Bulls are still sitting 9th in the Eastern Conference with him as the leader. But the fact of the matter is, DeMar, whether you like him or not, the Bulls would be in horrible shape without him. And I get it. Maybe that's what some people actually want, restarting, rebuilding, and accumulating the highest draft picks possible, but you cannot deny just how incredible DeMar has been this season, especially with Zach Lavine being out of the lineup. Not only for what he brings to this group on the court, but off the court as well, in being a vocal leader and a mentor to the younger guys, and I cannot emphasize enough just how important that is. One thing I've said before that I feel a lot of Bulls fans don't understand, well, I get the strategy of just tearing it all down and shipping off your vets for picks and young players. At the same time, there is something to be said about having a veteran, a skilled veteran, a player that knows how to close games, that knows how to get the best out of the young players and help them learn how to grow, develop, and finish out games. Like when the Bulls were initially rebuilding after trading away Jimmy Butler, they had a lot of young talent, but no vets to really lead and mentor that group. Take a look at the Pistons. They should not be as bad as they have been this season when you consider all of the young talent they have. But they're one of the worst teams in the league because they don't have a veteran leader to guide them and navigate the path of the NBA journey. In order to get the most out of your young players to ensure their overall development, I mean, among many things, but one of them is having a player like DeMar who can show you the way, a player you can learn from and help your overall development as you start to enter your prime. Now, the off-court stuff aside and the impact DeMar has in the locker room with his professionalism and mentorship, on the court, I mean, it's undeniable, especially more recently with how he's been able to close out games. He is the front runner to win the Clutch Player of the Year award, which isn't a surprise at all given he's by far and away exceeding the competition when it comes to scoring and efficiency in the fourth quarter, and that's even heightened when you get into clutch minutes in the final 5 minutes of the game, and even more so when entering overtime, which the Bulls have had the most OT games this season than any other team. He's currently averaging 23.3 points per game on 47% shooting, 4.3 rebounds, and 5.3 assists, leading the team in assists, by the way. He's the Bulls' best free throw shooter at 86%, one of the lowest turnover rates with the best assist to turnover ratio on the team, and a true shooting percentage of 58.3%. Post All-Star break, though, the final games for him in a contract year, he's been exceptionally great, putting up over 26 points per game, 5.4 rebounds, and 5.3 assists on 48, 35, 90 shooting splits, and an insane 62% true shooting percentage. Offensive efficiency at its finest for the mid-range assassin. And mind you, DeMar is doing all of this in his 15th season in the league, at the age of 34 and leading the league in total minutes and minutes per game. A lot is being asked of this guy, and he is certainly delivering. But again, the question is, does he make sense for the Bulls in their future? Should he still be a part of their future plans at his age, turning 35 this summer? And if he is, even if it is in the short term, how much should the Bulls pay to retain him? Well, a few things to consider. First and foremost, the Bulls do not have the ability to offer him that max extension of 3 years, $130 million. That would put them well over the luxury tax, which we know ownership is not going to do. And that doesn't even factor in a potential contract extension for Patrick Williams and even Andre Drummond. The Bulls are currently projected to have $130 million on the payroll next season, assuming Lonzo takes his player option. The Bulls don't apply for medical retirement on the final year of his deal to get that off of their books, which is a topic in and of itself. And it also assumes they pick up the team option on Dalen Terry's rookie scale deal, which I think they likely will do. The salary cap for next season is $141 million, with a luxury tax line at $172 million, which I always like to say is the Bulls' hard cap. They will not exceed that amount. So you can assume the Bulls will have $42 million in projected space for next season before hitting the luxury tax. That leaves $42 million to either re-sign DeMar, Pat, and Andre Drummond, or signing other free agents. But in signing other free agents, they would only have $11 million, as that's the amount they would remain below the NBA salary cap, and the only way they're able to sign players to go over the cap is via exceptions like the mid-level exception, biannual exception, or signing their own players for which they hold their bird rights to. I know that was a lot in terms of the math behind what's available and what's needed for the Bulls next season, but the main number you need to focus on is $42 million. $42 million before the Bulls hit their quote-unquote hard cap, which is the tax line. If the Bulls re-sign DeMar for the most that he's able to get at 3 years, $130 million, that would put him at about $43 million annually, which that already puts the Bulls over the tax line without signing any other free agents, including Patrick Williams. So DeMar isn't going to be getting that amount. Now, the good thing is no other team can pay him that much, so it's not like the Bulls run the risk of some other team offering him that kind of deal, because they can't. And even if they could, I don't think anyone is actually going to sign DeMar to a deal like that when you're paying him over $40 million until he's 38 years old. That said, though, DeMar, with his level of play and production, and also given how durable he's been in playing in 93% of all available games throughout his career in 15 years, he's going to want to get paid. This is his final big contract before he retires, and there will likely be teams willing to pay him a fair amount that are looking for that additional scoring option to put them over the top into contention status. And for the Bulls, what they need to decide this offseason is what's the direction of this team. By re-signing DeMar to a big contract extension and still having Zach and Vucevic's contract on their books, where is that really going to take them? And I know the goal is still to get off Zach's contract, but even then, do you still want to keep DeMar long-term as he goes into the age of 35 and beyond? Yes, there are benefits because DeMar is still playing at a high level, and he also has the impact off the court that we talked about that this team in the front office really values, but what's the price point for DeMar DeRozan, where it no longer becomes worth it from a return on investment perspective? Because if you're prioritizing paying DeMar a big contract and not allocating dollars toward other players, one being Patrick Williams, is that really the way to go? Now, DeMar this season is currently making $28.6 million. If the Bulls sign him at that rate, that would only leave Pat around $13.4 million annually, which may be okay. You say that's more than enough for Patrick Williams given his current injury and the fact that he hasn't really shown that much progress since his rookie season, but that also means you lose Andre Drummond. And then the other thing we haven't even considered here is the Bulls still have to leave enough to sign their first round draft pick for this upcoming draft, because the Bulls actually have their pick this year, and it's most likely going to be a late lottery pick to mid first rounder. So you're going to have to either waive a player like Terry Taylor or potentially even Batum, contracts that aren't fully guaranteed next season, to be able to make room for this incoming rookie. So when people ask me, what do you think is a fair and realistic number the Bulls could re-sign DeMar for? I honestly don't know how they're going to be able to make the money work. Not unless they're able to get off Lonzo's contract, which seems unlikely at this point because he is progressing nicely with his rehab. And while I actually would like to see DeMar return to the Bulls because he's such a pro and I think he's great for the overall franchise, at the same time, I don't think it makes sense for the Bulls to sacrifice their future by extending a player in his mid-30s to a large contract that isn't going to be a part of your long-term plans. Now, if they can get DeMar on a short-term deal that's only 2 years and pays him between $20 to $22 million annually, which even that is a bit steep, then I think it's worth it because it gives the Bulls enough flexibility to retain Patrick Williams or even have him play on the qualifying offer, but also leaves room to sign their rookie draft pick and even leaves room to sign a player using the mid-level exception and still remain just below the tax line. The problem is, would DeMar sign a contract at that level? If you're purely basing it off his production and being the team's best player, he's worth more than that. Would he be willing to take a team-friendly discount for a team that isn't going to be contending for a title? I know he loves Chicago, but I'm sure he's also thinking about his legacy and thinking about the end of his career and putting himself in a position to win a title, which the Bulls aren't even close to reaching that level. Either way, it's going to make for an interesting offseason with all these decisions the Bulls are going to have to make between Zach Lavine, Patrick Williams, DeMar, and what the direction is for this team going forward. I want to know what you guys think about a contract extension for DeMar DeRozan and what you think the Bulls should do, so let me know in the comments. As always, be sure to subscribe, and I will see you in the next one.